Hi, welcome to Bake to the Future, the show where we examine what is happening in the baking industry with a future-focused lens. I'm Katie Jewell. Today, I'm talking with Greg Ferrera, President and CEO of the National Grocers Association, and our own Eric Dell, CEO of the American Bakers Association. Welcome, guys.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Katie. Good to be here. And thank you, Greg, for being with us.
And we're going to talk today about policies affecting baking, packaging, workforce, and how bakers can better work with independent grocers. Now, Greg, you're a first-time guest on our show. And before we get into the nitty-gritty of learning about NGA, so National Grocers Association, we will refer to as NGA probably. Sorry, all these letters. I always forget to define that. So before we learn more about NGA and learn and talk through the rest of our conversation, I'd like to open up our episodes with the hardest question of all. And I don't know if you prepared for this, but I am wondering, what is your favorite baked good?
Well, if the video was on, you could understand that I truly do love baked goods. But I will have to tell you, my favorite baked good is bread, and specifically, my wife has started baking a boule, so a beautiful crusty loaf of bread. She started it during COVID, and it is my favorite thing. Get a hot, crunchy loaf of bread with some good olive oil to dip in there, and I'm a happy guy.
Oh, man. This takes me back. So every 3 years, the bakers have a big trade show in Las Vegas called IBIE, and they're making, there was one vendor making fresh boule on the Las Vegas convention show floor, and I went and I got it, and I was just walking along with my boule, just gnawing, looking at all the equipment, and then champagne was starting to flow, and I was walking with my champagne and my boule, and I was in
life
heaven.
Is good. Life is good.
Gosh. Let me tell you what, guys, if you have not been to the show, it's 2025 September, so just mark your calendars now. All right, so thank you for that, Greg, and thank you for bringing happy memories and happy thoughts to this podcast. So what I'm wondering first is if you could tell me a little bit about your role at NGA. Obviously, you're president and CEO, and maybe talk to me about what NGA is, who your members are, just so our audience can get a better understanding of that.
Yeah, you bet. We're a 40-year-old trade association, so we were formed in 1982. Two other trade associations whose roots actually go back to the 1800s merged to form NGA. And we're unique in that we represent the independent sector of the supermarket industry. And to us, that is very simply, we are privately owned companies. Our members are, for the most part, not publicly traded companies. And we range everyone from a single store operator in rural Nebraska all the way to large regional chains that operate in multiple states. We have quite a few employee-owned companies as well. And we also represent all of the wholesalers that service the supermarket industry, from the large voluntaries to the cooperatives to a lot of the specialty wholesalers as well, a part of NGA. Our industry is about $253 billion in annual sales. That represents just over 21,000 storefronts across America, and we have members literally in every congressional district from Alaska to Maine and all throughout Puerto Rico.
Wow. So it sounds like a similar reach to our members, so I'm certain that there's tons of overlap here. So what I want this conversation to be today is I'm just going to be here kind of help guiding the conversation between you guys. I know that you guys have spoken before, obviously. And so why don't we just dive into some of these topics? Because I know that you've talked about it before, and now we want to be flies on the wall listening in as you talk about all of these subjects. So why don't we start with tray theft? Eric, why don't you go ahead and start?
Yeah, I was just going to say thanks to Greg for being here. Greg's been a friend for many years. We've worked together on the government relations front, previous to both of us being president and CEO. And just thank you for being here and what you do to help work together. DC is one of those areas where you want to find friends to partner with to help your members, right, and to help the industry and help the country move forward. One of the things we worked on recently when I started ABA was tray theft, and I appreciate Greg stepping up and his team stepping up to help our members with this issue of tray theft. Immediately when Greg and I had lunch, I think first month or two that I was at ABA, he said, "Hey, how can we work together? We all want to work together here to help our members, right? We're in the same line of business," and we immediately talked about tray theft because a lot of the independent grocers, obviously, we deliver bread and other products, baked products, to those independent grocers, and it's an opportunity for us to work together. So Greg immediately jumped on it with his team, sent out some notices to to their members about how they could help our bakers with tray theft issues. So thank you, Greg, for doing that. And any inputs you have on what you're seeing on your end, or what you're hearing from your members about how you're involved in the tray theft issue?
Yeah, so I have a somewhat unique perspective, Eric, because before I was worked for NGA, which I've been here for 17 years, I was in the grocery business. My family owned and operated stores in New Orleans. I grew up in the business. I have stacked more loaves of sliced bread than I can imagine over the years, and so I actually know a lot about the trays and dealing with not only bread trays, but of course milk crates as well. And I think it's something that the grocers don't think about all the time, particularly as they get busy. And I've got this huge stack of empty trays that the next bread delivery is going to be on Monday. It's Saturday afternoon. What do I do with them? Where do I put them? I need to get them out of the way so we can make room. And I think it's just an awareness issue. And so we were happy to partner with you guys to make sure that folks are not just putting these trays out in the parking lot where someone can come grab them and take them. You're keeping them in your back room, or you're keeping them in a fenced-in yard area, someplace where they can be secured. And I think the other part is communicating with your bread delivery folks as well, whether that's coming through your warehouse distribution center, or for many of our guys it's a DSD delivery item, and just communicating and saying, hey, look, we need you to pick these up more often, or let's make sure that we're putting these in a place where you can get them, maybe even on the end of your route if we've stopped receiving and delivering, but we can put them in a place where you can come grab them before you head back in. I think just having those lines of communications open and being aware is important.
And a little bit of, sorry, Eric, a little plug for traytheft.org has a lot of these resources. It's a resource tool that ABA put together with some of our professionals groups, traytheft.org.
Well, this is one of the things we can do working together, right, Greg, to help our members. And I'm sure you're going to have issues come up where we can educate our members to help your members. So we'll just keep these lines of communication open. Obviously, the other issue that it really is front and center, the top issue we're hearing about, and you and I have talked about this, Greg, is workforce. The challenges that we're seeing in the workforce, and keeping and retaining good employees, right? And really trying to find employees out there that we can bring in and hire, and getting enough folks to work. So any input you have on that, on the workforce on your front, but I know we're looking to try to help our members, give them options. At our recent convention, we had a group called Tent who helps with refugees. And bringing refugees into the workforce that can come work. So we're trying to provide opportunities and resources for our members where they can secure workers out there that they may not traditionally think about. So I don't know what you're doing on your front or inputs you have.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important. Our foundation, NGA Foundation, its mission in part is to attract, train, and retain the best workforce we can for our industry. And so we have job boards, we do a lot of education, but the reality is attracting and retaining those frontline employees is a challenge, particularly as some of these jobs can be more difficult, and there's just a lot of turnover that happens. So our folks are doing as much as they can to make sure they're listening to the needs of those employees. They're trying to attract, in different areas where they maybe haven't done outreach. I think the area you talked about with refugees, we did some work after the fall in Afghanistan, and all those refugees came over, and trying to connect some of our members to those groups that were coming over. I think ultimately, Nitin, you know this as well as I do, being we've been in Washington for so long, we need immigration reform. I think we ultimately need to have the ability to get more workers in the workforce that are willing to do the jobs that need to be done in both of our industries. Unfortunately, I think that's a political hot stick right now. But if we can ultimately get to a place where we can get bipartisan focus on that, I think it will go a long way to relieving some of these problems. But it's not going to get easier. One thing our folks are doing, I know yours are as well, is we're looking at where we can use technology or to change how we operate and run our stores. So where can we put the workers in the skilled workforce in a way where they can interact with the customer and have the most positive impact to the operations? And if there are things that we can automate, or there are things we could do in a commissary, if there are things we can do in a different way, self-service, that doesn't diminish the experience, then those are things that our folks are absolutely looking at.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it's a multi-pronged approach. I think Congress needs to do something on the immigration front, obviously, right? That to work with business and to work with the business community to find solutions, which is going to be really tough. But I think automation, you mentioned automation. I see that a lot as I go around, and you probably see it with your members in the grocery space, but I see it in the bakery space. And I think automation, right? We've got to it's not going to get easier on the for the workforce.
Yeah.
So, we're doing a lot of education on Frontline. You mentioned Frontline, Frontline education program that we have at ABA, which is a really good program that a lot of members use. But I think we just have to continue plugging away on behalf of our members, and it's really an issue bigger than just our members. It's an issue of taking care of the country, right?
Absolutely. Eric, 4 years ago, electronic shelf tags. A lot of our members would have said the ROI on that, just didn't make sense for them. I can tell you today that's a perfect example of an item that our folks are absolutely putting in and are finding ways that not only they're going to save on labor, but they're looking at ways to use dynamic pricing, maybe ways to promote other, sale items or specials to the customer, where you don't have to pay someone literally to walk up and down every aisle of the store, hanging a shelf tag or shelf talker.
And I even think about my personal usage of, you have like these apps that you can just check out as you go, like with Walmart Plus and all of these. I know that Walmart's it's not an NGA, but and even I think I was at the store the other day and they had a robot security guy, like a little robot going down the aisles, just kind of checking. And I'm like,
our members are using robotics in their stores. They're using them to do shelf scans, to look at item placement, item movement, inventory control, category management. Absolutely, yeah. Technology is moving very quickly.
I'm just imagining that data and the sort of data that those robots and automated tools are collecting that could then be shared with the vendors, right? So like the bakers and just all of the information that can be culled from that is really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously shelf life is an issue with our products, right? Mm-hmm. And your folks help with that, Greg, as well. But tracking those products, right? And the sale of those products and making sure we sell those products timely, right? And inventory control, those kind of things are really important too.
We need to manage shrink, and we need to have turns.
Exactly.
Both of those are incredibly important to both of our operations.
Yeah, they are. So I think that's an area where we could work together too, on that front. So, what other areas, Greg? Any other areas you can think of where we could be working together better to help all of our members?
Yeah, one area where I know we partner and have for many, many years, Eric, is around the Farm Bill, right? So we're in a Farm Bill season. Every 5 years, Congress has to reauthorize the Farm Bill. People, I think, fail to realize that like 80% of the spend of the Farm Bill is around the nutrition title today. And so, our collective focus, I know you guys are aligned with us on this, is to ensure that there are not new burdens placed on the SNAP program, particularly around restricting what items people can buy. Now, I will tell you from the grocer's perspective, we don't get into, people should be able to buy this item or everyone deserves this item. We specifically focus on the impact this is going to have to our members, to grocery operations. And if you have to stand up a USDA Department of this is healthy food or not, if you start having to tell people what they can buy and what they can't buy in the SNAP program, ultimately comes down to that 16-year-old cashier at 6 o'clock in the evening in the store that's going to have to tell that mother with 3 screaming kids that she picked up the wrong item because it's not an eligible item. And we do not want to be the food police. We do not want to increase cost and burdens, particularly on our Main Street grocers who accept SNAP, who are an important public-private partner in this program, and to make sure that we're not making this program one that is burdensome and very difficult to administer. And so we've had great success partnering with ABA and many others to make sure that Congress hears that message in a bipartisan fashion.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great area to work on, and that's one of the areas we're focused on the Farm Bill. We don't want to be the food police either, right? And we don't believe the federal government should be. We believe the program works, and we just don't want to overly burden the business community, correct?
Absolutely. This is a program that's one of the most efficient and honestly most cost effective that is out there. And let's just be honest, it's an economic engine in many communities that lack access, that lack supermarkets, that are on that are marginal when it comes to the economy, that are trying to recover. A lot of rural communities. SNAP is the difference between having a full service grocery store in that town or having to drive 30 miles to get one. And I think we need to look at SNAP not only through the eyes of helping people, but also look through the eyes of the economic impact it has on jobs as well.
No, you're exactly correct. The food equity issues, right, that it impacts so much.
Yeah.
It impacts them tremendously across the country, and as you said, in a lot of rural areas around the country specifically. What about packaging? Anything on packaging? We're working on some packaging issues across the country with PFAS and some overly burdensome regulations. We obviously are complying with many of those PFAS. I don't know if y'all are in that space or not. Regulations on packaging that we're tracking across the country. Other issues on packaging you're working on the grocery front?
So we don't spend a lot of time on that issue because we represent retail, right?
Right.
So we're not really manufacturing, but we're very aware of the challenges that manufacturers are facing, not just here in the United States, but globally.
Right.
And the pressure on keeping up with all the different changes and proposals that ultimately could impact the safety of the food, could impact the cost of that item. And I think particularly when we're talking about baked goods, we're talking about bread as a basic staple, a healthy staple item. Anything that's going to increase those costs is something that we want to be aware of. I think, Eric, one of the things I tell our folks, and I bet you do the same with yours, is we're already doing a lot of great stuff around sustainability. I mean, if you look at a grocery store, we're huge users of energy, but the fact that we've got LED lights throughout the store, we have doors on all the refrigeration now. You're even seeing doors in some areas on produce cases and meat cases, which I never thought I would see. We do recycling programs. Think about the bread trays we talked about, right? I mean, those are reusable items that don't have to be thrown away. I think we're doing a lot. We just don't talk about it enough. And it's probably an opportunity, I know, for my industry to do more in that space.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we're in our strategic planning process right now looking at those issues too. And we're hoping in the fall that we're going to have something come out in our strategic plan around, taking a step forward with sustainability and those issues. But you're right. We do a lot already. We're involved in the EPA's program around sustainability as well with our manufacturing facilities, and our members just really are a huge portion of the manufacturing facilities that participate in that. But they do so much. As I go around, and I'll tie it back to what you said about automation, Greg. Automation really, really has a huge impact on sustainability, and our members are doing it, and your members are doing it. So we need to tell that story and tell it better, and continue to make progress. Right? Just keep notching forward to help the country, help the world, and help the workforce. So,
hey, absolutely, a lot of opportunity.
Yep,
well,
I agree.
With that, is there anything else while we have you, Greg, that you'd like to discuss with us?
No, we appreciate the partnership. I remember telling folks when we owned our store, we obviously had a primary wholesaler deliver to us 3 days a week, but I bet we had 60 or so DSD vendors. Many were in the baking industry, and they were bringing products to our stores that our customers were looking for, that were unique to our business, and that's how our independents go to market. They are carrying those unique items, those specialty items that you might not be able to find at a retailer, a national retailer, because they're so connected to their community. So we appreciate the partnership. We appreciate all that you guys do to make sure that every day when a customer comes in the store, there is fresh bread on the shelf. There is fresh baked goods in the store. I think we take that for granted. It's not easy. Someone had to work overnight to make that happen, and we appreciate everything that your members do to sustain our businesses, but also the communities that we serve.
Well, same here. I'd say your members are also working overnight to make sure the door's open.
That's right.
So it's a lot of hard work out there from both the industries. But we appreciate working together in DC. I think advocacy is one of the biggest pillars of value, obviously, right, for trade association. And when we can bring groups together that have common interest, I think that's where we do best. So thank you for doing that.
Man, right back at you. Appreciate the partnership.
Well, and thanks, guys. It sounds like we have some marching orders to kind of dive into. So I appreciate both of you guys being here. And thank you to our listeners for listening. And let us know what you thought of the show by emailing hello@americanbakers.org. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts: Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, and Ghana.